Stay tuned for the following shows on the SAP Network.
The SAP Network presents Extreme Safety, a show for those of us who live our lives on the extreme, when normal safety procedures just won't suffice. Tonight's episode.
Hello and welcome. In this module, we are going to review the requirements of an efficient emergency action plan. Nearly every business is required to have an emergency action plan. Some of you are naturally asking yourselves, what is an emergency action plan? An emergency action plan, or EAP, is a plan for a workplace, or parts thereof, describing what procedures the employer has in place to bolster employee safety from fire or other emergencies. Well-developed emergency plans will result in fewer and less severe employee injuries and less structural damage to the facility during emergencies. Proper employee training ensures that employees understand their roles and responsibilities within the plan. A poorly prepared plan will lead to a disorganized evacuation or emergency response, resulting in confusion, injury, and property damage. Let's review a tragic scenario that took place in July of 2011. An employee was cooking in the kitchen of a restaurant when a fire occurred. She unsuccessfully attempted to exit and later died of smoke inhalation. With events like these occurring, why would anyone not want an emergency action plan? Putting together a comprehensive EAP that deals with the issues specific to your worksite is not difficult. It involves taking what was learned from your workplace evaluation and describing how employees will respond to different types of emergencies, taking into account your specific worksite layout, structural features, and emergency systems. Most organizations find it beneficial to include a diverse group of representatives such as management and employees in this planning process, and to meet frequently to review progress and allocate development tasks. The commitment and support of all employees is critical to the plan's success in the event of an emergency. Ask for their help in establishing and implementing your emergency action plan. According to OSHA, for smaller organizations, the plan does not need to be written and may be communicated orally if there are 10 or fewer employees. Be sure to check your local regulations and guidelines, as the codes may be more strict than OSHA requirements. The only exemption to this is if you have an in-house fire brigade in which every employee is trained and equipped to fight fires, and consequently, no one evacuates. In most circumstances, immediate evacuation is the best policy, especially if professional firefighting services are available to respond quickly. Ever heard the phrase, if you can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen? Listen, cooks cook, waiters wait, and firefighters, well, fight fires. There may be situations where employee firefighting is warranted to give other workers time to escape or to prevent danger to others. In this case, your employer is still required to have an emergency action plan, and you can now see why it is so important to ensure proper training regarding this matter. July 2011, an employee was extinguishing a fire. He was quickly overcome by smoke and heat, suffered cardiac arrest, and died. So once again, be sure that you and your coworkers have been trained. At a minimum, the plan must include, but is not limited to, the following elements: means of reporting fires and other emergencies. These are preferred procedures for reporting emergencies, such as dialing 911 or an internal emergency number, or pulling a manual fire alarm. These are common emergency reporting procedures, but be aware that there are many other possibilities. Evacuation procedures and emergency escape route assignments. An evacuation policy, procedure, and escape route assignment ensures employees understand who is authorized to order an evacuation, under what conditions an evacuation would be necessary, how to evacuate, and what routes to take. Exit diagrams are typically used to identify escape routes to be followed by employees from each specific facility location. Evacuation procedures also often describe actions employees should take before and while evacuating, such as shutting windows, turning off equipment, and closing doors behind them. Sometimes critical decisions may need to be made during planning, such as whether or not employees should fight small fires with portable fire extinguishers or simply evacuate. Portable fire extinguishers may be integrated into the emergency action plan. Let's review a tragedy that could have been prevented with proper planning. May 2011. An electrical fire broke out at a hotel. The sole fatality was on site, allegedly conducting an electrical evaluation when the fire occurred. The deceased was found by firefighters with no visible burns or apparent injury to the body. The preliminary coroner's report listed the cause of death as smoke inhalation. Procedures to be followed by employees who remain to operate critical plant operations before they evacuate. Employees may be required to operate fire extinguishers or shut down gas or electrical systems or other special equipment that could be damaged if left operating or create additional hazards to emergency responders, such as the release of hazardous materials. Be sure to identify those employees in the emergency action plan. Procedures to account for all employees after an emergency evacuation has been completed. This is to ensure that everyone got out. This might include procedures for designated employees to sweep areas, checking offices and restrooms before declaring a workplace fully evacuated, or conducting a roll call in the assembly area. Many employers designate an evacuation warden to assist others in an evacuation and to account for all personnel. Be sure any designated evacuation warden is in good enough health that the responsibilities will not create additional hazards. Rescue and medical duties for those employees who are to perform them. These are the duties, responsibilities, and names of employees assigned with rescue and medical tasks. Most small organizations rely on local public resources, such as the local fire department or hospital, to provide these services. It is strongly recommended, and even required in some industries, such as construction, that the company's first aid personnel are listed on the safety bulletin board, as well as on all first aid kits. Names or job titles of persons who can be contacted for further information or explanation of duties under the plan. The names, titles, departments, and phone numbers of employees who can be contacted for additional information or clarification on some aspect of the emergency action plan should be documented. Although they are not specifically required by OSHA, you may find it helpful to also include the following in your plan: a description of the alarm system to be used to notify employees, including disabled employees, to evacuate or take other actions. The alarms used for different actions should be distinctive and may include horn blasts, sirens, or even public address systems. Imagine an alarm goes off, but the employees of the company do not sufficiently respond, as they do not know what the alarm signifies due to lack of training. Some of you may be thinking, an alarm is an alarm. You hear it and you go. In some cases, yes. In others, no. Some areas are known to have tornadoes or tsunamis. Would you perform the same actions for those as you would for a fire? It is crucial that you make sure all employees understand what the alarm being sounded signifies. The site of an alternative communications center to be used in the event of a fire or explosion. A secure on- or off-site location to store original or duplicate copies of accounting records, legal documents, employee emergency contact lists, and other essential records. Once again, be sure to check local regulations and guidelines, as the codes may be more strict than OSHA requirements. Thank you, and be safe.
Check that gear in a minute, so don't touch anything, okay? Hey! Get down from there! Now! Turn it over! What if it bumped that control by accident? You'd be mincemeat by now. What have I told you? You don't work on equipment when the engine's running.
Well, I told him not to touch anything. All right, I guess I wasn't thinking.
You weren't thinking? You mean you'll work on engines and machinery and not think of your own personal safety? Here. Shake hands with danger.
Shake hands with danger. Need a guy who ought to know. I used to laugh at safety. Now they call me Three-Finger Joe. Shake hands with danger. Find it anywhere you choose. Be careless for a moment. Spend a lifetime with the blues. Earth-moving machines are designed for safety, but they're big enough to hide a man.
Hurt fella. Just about dead. You could have killed me.
This mechanic is lucky he's able to complain. He should have protected himself by removing the key and putting a do not operate tag on the controls. Anytime you pick up a wrench, reach for a control, use a grease gun, grab a welding torch, or work on any machine while forgetting safety, you're shaking hands with danger.
All right? Okay. All right, now you take the loader up behind the hill where they're working. Now I'll drive up on the road and I'll meet you at the top, all right?
Okay, but you know, Cliff, I never operated this model before.
Well, all right, all I have to do is back it up and then let it down nice and easy like. You want me to do it?
No, I can handle it. There's no sweat there. We can take care of it.
Okay, all right, I'll see you later.
What this man didn't know was that the operator had left the lift lever in the raised position, so the arms would rise automatically when the engine started.
Yeah, I'm all right. No, I'm okay.
A qualified operator would have known better. The man shouldn't have tried to perform as an operator when he wasn't one.
All right. Well, you weren't kidding when you said you didn't know how to run their thing.
For nearly 2 centuries, Americans' obsession with game shows has been our most beloved pastime. Nearly 30 years ago, when global warming made our planet inhospitable, the network executives behind our favorite television shows like Safety Gazing, Bees and Wasps, and Emergency Action Plan 5 brought us a new, revolutionary game show that promised to save the human race. Biodome. Biodome uses America's love of competitive, reality-style voting game shows to pioneer biosphere technology. Each season, we trap 12 contestants in a self-contained biodome. The contestants are pitted against each other in games of strength and wit, all while being monitored by our private, network-owned scientists. This research has been the foundation in modern biodome technology that is sending humans to dreamy locations like HD 40307G, Kepler 16b, and the wormhole of Xanadu 3. Now, on season 64, we get to observe how contestants react and survive when facing orchestrated, natural, social, and physical hazards. The catch: they don't know what they'll face or when they'll face it. No matter what, each hazard promises to stretch contestants to the limit. Each hazard is top secret. Only our Biodome executive producer knows what it is. As each contestant is vying to be crowned the ultimate Biodomer, they are eagerly waiting the hazard to be released into their 400-acre self-contained biodome. Only 4 contestants left. Let's see what happens next.
So, Alberto, what do you think the new hazard is?
Huh? The new hazard? The producer told me it's an earthquake. Don't ask me how I know.
Yes, we all now know, Amaretto told us. The first hazard is an earthquake.
It's not possible. It's a marketing gimmick set up by the network executives.
The biosphere is something like 400 acres big and half a mile tall. There is no way the executives, the network, has the technology to simulate an earthquake. They'd have to shake the whole dome.
An earthquake, you say? That'll be fun to deal with.
Nope, Amaretto don't believe it either. Too risky.
Seriously, do the execs even know what an earthquake is? What it would take to make one?
It's idiotic. They can't possibly believe we'll fall for that.
An earthquake is a result of a few things. Volcanoes, meteor impact, underground explosions, the movement of tectonic plates.
Tectonic plates?
Boring.
The Earth is not totally a solid thing. I mean, it's got layers like an onion.
Like that Shrek movie?
Like an onion. They're called tectonic plates because they're constantly in motion. They're just moving around each other. They're floating.
They float on top of this liquid mantle substance. See, it goes core, the middle of the Earth, and that has an outer core, which is liquid, and that's surrounded by a solid plastic mantle layer that, in geological time, behaves like a viscous fluid. The crust, the outer layer of the Earth, it's like a skin. It's made up of these tectonic plates, and the plates move around.
I really don't care what an earthquake is, but we should probably be ready for it.
Not possible. I mean, it's just not gonna happen.
So, these plates, they move around and they rub up against each other, and sometimes when they rub up against each other, they get stuck. And when they get stuck, they try to force by each other. And this force starts building up tension, which creates energy.
The energy builds up between the two pieces that eventually they just break apart. And that release of energy is what causes the earthquakes.
That's great, but we really should be talking about how to prepare for an earthquake.
Nobody really likes Lauren anyways.
Where these two pieces of plates rub together and they eventually slip from each other is called the fault place.
So the point where the earthquake starts, that's called the focus. It's usually deep within the Earth, but then the point on the surface above this focus, that's called the epicenter.
These focus areas and epicenters are usually found around the fault lines. And the fault lines make up the plate boundaries located around the world.
Nope, seriously guys, we should start prepping. It's not hard to prepare for an emergency like this, so there's no reason why we shouldn't do it. We have nothing to lose.
What does she think she is, a Boy Scout?
Why? It is impossible for them to simulate tectonic movement.
Here, can you hand me that notepad? I'll start making a prep list. Okay, we need to figure out where the evacuation routes are. And the emergency exits.
No I ain't. Amaretto ain't leaving the dome, that means I'll lose.
We'll need to find a safe place in each section of the dome that we can escape to. We can take shelter under sturdy furniture, up against an interior wall, away from windows, bookcases, and tall furniture.
I'ma just find a door.
No, tell Amaretto that doors are not stronger than other parts of a building. They used to teach that, but they've stopped. So don't use doors. We'll need to secure furniture in our living quarters, and we'll need to practice drop, cover, and hold techniques.
How old does she think we are?
I'm not sure if the dome is powered by any gas lines, but we'll need to know where the shut-off valves are so we can turn them off if they break in the quake. I think I saw a toolbox in one of the basements.
It's not gonna happen.
Speaking of a toolbox, we'll need emergency supplies, an emergency kit.
Import points are things that contestants can collect to import whatever they want into the dome from the outside world.
Pizza. I am importing pizza, organic feta, fresh spinach, Alfredo sauce. It has been 6 months since I have had anything that wasn't rations or vegetables grown in my own recycled, composted fecal material.
That's nasty. I ain't spending mine. They can be cashed out at the end of the game. Amaretto's gonna buy a neon orange Porsche. Piss off my neighbors.
Karen made me combine mine with hers for the pizza.
In an emergency kit, we should have food, which we have a lot of, but I'm gonna import some canned food, dehydrated milk, canned juices, at least enough for 72 hours, and other things that aren't salty for dehydration reasons, and they shouldn't need refrigeration. It's a good thing we don't have babies in the biodome or people with special dietary needs, or we need to prep for that in addition. We'll need flashlights, probably one of those wind-up ones, water, so much water. We'll need half a gallon per person per day. Now the dome has lots of water, but not all of it is drinkable. So we'll need to purify it with bleach, as long as it's pure, unscented, 5 to 6% sodium hypochlorite.
Amaretto ain't drinking no bleach?
Really? Bleach?
Well, maybe the network executives figured out how to predict an earthquake. And now they know there's going to be one this season.
If that were possible, that would be really cool for humanity. But it doesn't matter because the biodome is not located on any fault lines.
The major fault lines are located around the tectonic plates, and the whole face of the Earth is made up of these plates. Plates like the Australian plate is under Australia, and it meets up with the Pacific plate to the east and the Eurasian, Indian, and Antarctic plate to the west. The USA, where the biodome is located, is on its own plate, the North American plate. And our western coast is pretty much rests where the North American plate meets the Pacific plate.
California and the Pacific Northwest are at the most risk for earthquakes. California is known as the San Andreas fault line, and the Pacific Northwest is known as the Cascadia subduction zone. And that includes Washington, Oregon, and parts of British Columbia.
One geological oddity in the United States is the New Madrid seismic zone, which exists in the southern and midwestern United States. It extends to New Madrid, Missouri, and it's capable of some pretty large quakes. The largest being a series of quakes in the years 1811 and 1812, and they measured from 7.0 to 8.6 on the moment magnitude scale. I mean, that's some pretty big stuff. Other major fault lines are the Wasatch Fault, which is under Salt Lake City, and the Denali Fault, which is in Alaska, which had a quake that measured 7.9 on the moment magnitude scale.
The Richter scale, it's not used anymore, not since the 1970s. They are both methods used to measure the energy released by earthquakes. The Richter scale is a base 10 logarithmic scale, which means the measures increase exponentially, which means it increases by tenths with every increase in magnitude. When the quakes are larger, the Richter scale method tends to underreport the size. The seismologists have since developed the moment magnitude scale, which...
What?
Is she sure it's not the Richter scale? How did she know that?
What? How did I know that? Well, seismologists Thomas C. Hanks and Hiro Kanamori of the California Institute of Technology said the Richter scale saturates at magnitudes greater than 5.5. And we all use the moment magnitude scale because Amaretto said so.
As you can see, where the biodome is located, we're not near any fault lines and there's no potential for seismic activity. Technologically speaking, there is no way they have figured out how to shake the dome. And if they have figured out how to predict earthquakes, it doesn't matter because the biodome is not located near any fault lines.
But it doesn't matter. It doesn't take much to prepare for a quake, no matter how much you think it won't happen. So I guess I'll just tell you video guys what to do if it happens. When the quake hits, take as few steps as possible to get to a safe place and then drop, cover, and hold on. If you're in bed, stay there. Put a pillow over your head. Stay away from windows. And we should stay inside until it's done. Don't go to the emergency exits prematurely. While there may not be a fire, the fire alarms will probably be going off, so just be aware.
There are different types of seismic waves.
Boring.
If you're outside, find a clear spot and drop to the ground and stay like that until the ground stops shaking. Stay away from buildings, trees, power lines, street lights, things that fall. If you're driving, pull over. Again, avoid power lines and avoid bridges. Keep your seatbelt on. If a power line falls on your vehicle, do not get out. Wait for help. And be aware of falling things. If you're near a mountain, hill, or cliff, be aware of landslides too.
That's still boring, but at least it's relevant.
Oh yeah, the emergency kit list. Portable battery-powered radio and spare batteries, first aid kit, fire extinguishers, special needs meds, extra eyeglasses, etc. Important papers or cash, tools, extra clothes. You'll need tools for things like shutting off gas valves if they break. So take my import points and get me those. I wonder how realistic they'll get with the simulation.
The main quake is often followed by aftershocks, which are basically little quakes that happen after the main shock.
Despite them being smaller, they can be extremely dangerous because they're really unpredictable and they can end up causing more damage to a building that's already been damaged in the main quake.
When the trembling stops, the disaster is only beginning.
She's just quoting an episode of National Geographic. We just watched it last week.
She's right. It's generally not the earthquake itself that causes the most damage. It's things like aftershocks or buildings collapsing suddenly or exposed electrical wiring or fires caused from burst gas lines.
And tsunami.
They wouldn't.
Tsunami, or tidal wave, or also known as seismic sea wave. It's caused when an earthquake abruptly displaces the ground underneath the body of water, and all that water has to go someplace.
They wouldn't do that.
It doesn't hurt to be prepared. Well, they did it. And I was the only one that prepared.
What?
Well, what does she want me to say?
Flippin' Boy Scout.
The quake hit, and we all seem to be okay. We didn't get the kit, but I think we've made do. I performed some basic first aid on the others, mostly just cuts and bruises. I got everyone into long sleeve shirts and pants, and everyone's wearing sturdy boots. We did find a broken gas line. We were able to get it shut off. Luckily, we've managed to collect enough water to last us the week. I'm glad someone prepared.
I think it's time to vote.
I vote Lauren out of the dome.
Lauren.
Lauren's out! Could someone grab that emergency kit she put together?
In the biodome, how long will you survive?
That's safety-rific!
Today we're going to talk about population, but not just American population, but actual world population. The first complete world census was carried out in 1801. And at the time, the world's population was at 1 billion. The most populous countries at that time were China, which had a whopping 295 million people. India had 131 million, Russia had 33 million, France not far behind at 27 million, Ottoman Empire, also known as the Turkish Empire, had 21 million. Germany was at 14 million, Spain had 11 million, Britain was at 10 million, and finally we have Ireland that had 5 million people. By the way, that was also tied with America. So how fast has the world population grown? Well, let's take a look at the world population, through the years. So by 1927, there were 2 billion people. We hit 3 billion people by 1960, 4 billion by 1974, 5 billion people by 1987, 6 billion people in 1999, and by 2010, we were at 6.9 billion people. And we finally hit that big 7 billion mark in 2011. So where does each individual country lie? Well, as of July 2010, the top 7 countries' population numbers were as follows. China, 1.3 billion. India, not far behind at 1.2 billion. USA had 307 million. Russia, 141 million. Germany, 82 million. France at 62 million. Britain at 61 million. So now that we've talked about countries, let's see where some of the cities lie and what their numbers are. Tokyo has over 38 million people alone. Shanghai, over 23 million. Mumbai, over 21 million people. Beijing, just over 20 million. And what about New York? Has over 18.5 million people. And Buenos Aires, over 15 million. Wow, that's just a lot of people. So now let's go over some fun facts about population. Since Earth was created, over 108 billion people have ever lived on Earth. The 6th billionth person was born in 1999, based on statistical measures. Standing side by side, the entire world population would fit into 500 square miles. That's less than the size of Los Angeles. The average life expectancy is 80 years old for people in industrialized nations, 30 years more than a century ago. Sub-Saharan Africa has the lowest life expectancy at 53 years. The total world average is 67.2 years. About 50% of the world population is under 25 years old. 1 in 4 people in the world are between the ages of 10 and 24. The average person on Earth is a 28-year-old right-handed Chinese male. There are 9 million people on Earth who fit that bill, more than any other. The most common first name in the world for men is Mohammed. Mary, or some variation like Maria, is the most common first name for women. And the most common surname? That belongs to Chang. In 1900, only 1 in 10 people lived in cities. By 1994, 1 in every 2 people live in a city. And every second, there are 4.3 births and 1.8 deaths, for a net population gain of 2.5 people per second. Wow. The recent population explosion is not because of increase in births, but rather a decrease in death rates, with the help of medicine and agricultural yields, urbanization, technology, education, and disease prevention, and, well, less war. At this rate, the world's population will double approximately every 40 years to over 12 billion people by 2050. And if Facebook were a country, it would be the 3rd most populous in the world, with 500 million citizens. And by the way, Google handles more than 3.5 billion searches a day. That's more than 1 trillion searches per year. Just saying.
Welcome to the amazing world of indie film, where mainstream media is pushed to the curb. If you thirst for new, fresh, original voices, get your gourmet, gluten-free popcorn popped and sit back and prepare to have your predefined ideas of what cinema is change forever.
Hello and welcome. My name is... and I will be your computer-generated host for this evening. So I bet you're wondering, how do you evaluate the workplace to comply with OSHA emergency standards? Well, the best way to protect yourself and your fellow coworkers is to prepare for an emergency before it happens by doing a thorough assessment of the workplace. Think about possible emergency situations and evaluate your workplace to see if it is sufficiently prepared. In the following areas: design and construction requirements for exit routes. What is an exit route? An exit route is a continuous, unobstructed path of exit travel from any point within a workplace to a place of safety. An exit route consists of 3 parts: exit access, portion of an exit route that leads to an exit. Exit, portion of an exit that is generally separated from other areas, provide a protected way of travel to the exit discharge. Exit discharge, a part of the exit route that leads safely directly outside to a street, walkway, refuge area, public way, or open space with access to the outside. Let's now review some of the basic requirements. Like what, do you ask? Well. An exit route must be permanent. Each exit route must be a permanent part of the workplace. An exit must be separated by fire-resistant materials. Construction materials used to separate an exit from the other parts of the workplace must have a 1-hour fire resistance rating if the exit connects to 3 or fewer stories, and a 2-hour fire resistant rating if the exit connects 4 or more stories. Openings into an exit must be limited. An exit is permitted to have only those openings necessary to allow access to the exit from occupied areas of the workplace, or to the exit discharge. An opening into the exit must be protected by a self-closing fire door that remains closed or automatically closes in an emergency upon the sounding of a fire alarm or employee alarm system. Each fire door, including its frame and hardware, must be listed or approved by a nationally recognized testing laboratory. Number of exits. The number of exit routes must be adequate. At least 2 exit routes must be available in the workplace to permit prompt evacuation of employees and other building occupants during an emergency. Although a single route is permitted where the number of employees, the size of the building, its occupancy, or the arrangement of the workplace is such that all employees will be able to evacuate safely during an emergency. For assistance in determining the number of exit routes necessary for your workplace, consult NFPA 101-2009, Life Safety Code, or IFC-2009, International Fire Code, incorporated by reference C 1910.6. The exit route must be located as far away as practical from each other, so that if one exit route is blocked by the fire or smoke, employees can evacuate using the second exit route. Another source would be to contact your local fire department for assistance. More than 2 exit routes must be available at a workplace if the number of employees, the size of the building, its occupancy, or the arrangement of the workplace is such that all employees would not be able to evacuate safely during an emergency. Once again, a single route is permitted where the number of employees, the size of the building, its occupancy, or the arrangement of the workplace is such that all employees would be able to evacuate safely during the emergency. We strongly recommend you contact your local fire department for assistance in evaluating your facility. December 2008, an employee was working in a sanding furniture building when a fire broke out and started to burn down the building. The fire blocked the roll-up door, which was being used as the only exit from the suite. While trying to exit, the employee became overcome by the smoke and died. Exit discharge. Each exit discharge must lead directly outside to a street, walkway, refuge area, public way, or open space with access to the outside. The street, walkway, refuge area, public way, or open space to which an exit discharge leads must be large enough to accommodate the building occupants likely to use the exit route. Exit stairs that continue beyond the level on which the exit discharge is located must be interrupted at the level by doors, partitions, or other effective means that clearly indicate the direction of the travel leading to the exit discharge. Locking arrangements. An exit door must be unlocked from the inside. Employees must be able to open an exit route door from the inside at all times without keys, tools, or special knowledge. A device such as a panic bar that locks only from the outside is permitted on exit discharge doors. Exit route doors must be free of any device or alarm that could restrict emergency use of the exit route if the device or alarm fails. An exit route door may be locked from the inside only in mental, penal, or correctional facilities, and then only if supervisory personnel are continuously on duty and the employer has a plan to remove occupants from the facility during an emergency. Door swing. A side-hinged door must be used to connect any room to the exit route. The door that connects any room to the exit route must swing out in the direction of exit travel if the room is designed to be occupied by more than 50 people, or if the room is a high-hazard area, i.e. contains contents that are likely to burn with extreme rapidity or explode. Exit route capacity. The capacity of an exit route must be adequate. Exit routes must support the maximum permitted occupant load for each floor. The capacity of an exit route must not decrease in the direction of exit route travel to the exit discharge. Height and width requirements. An exit route must meet minimum height and width requirements. The ceiling of an exit route must be at least 7 feet 6 inches. Any protection from the ceiling must not reach a point less than 6 feet 8 inches from the floor. An exit route must be at least 28 inches wide at all points, where there is only one exit access leading to an exit or exit discharge. The width of the exit and exit discharge must be at least equal to the width of the exit access. The width of the exit route must be sufficient to accommodate the maximum permitted occupant load of each floor served by the exit route. Objects that project into the exit route must not reduce the width exit route to less than the minimum width requirements for each exit route. Outdoor exit routes. An outdoor exit route is permitted. The outdoor exit route must have guardrails to protect unenclosed sides if a fall hazard exists. The outdoor exit route must be covered if snow or ice is likely to accumulate around the route, unless the employer can demonstrate that any snow or ice accumulations will be removed before it presents a hazard. The outdoor exit route must be reasonably straight and have a smooth, solid, substantially level walkways. And the outdoor exit route must not have a dead end that is longer than 20 feet. I'm your host. Have a good evening.
Oh yeah, that's a take.
In a world where the definition for tolerance is one's willingness to accept other people's feelings, habits, and beliefs.
You don't have to like me, but if we're gonna walk together, we're gonna have to tolerate each other.
In a place where tolerance can be applied to many different subjects.
You're not gonna like everyone you meet in the world, and in fact, you're probably gonna dislike the majority of them. But nothing would get done if our ancestors just bashed the heads in of everyone we ever met or ever disagreed with. Sometimes you have to endure difference. Sometimes you gotta put up with the meanies and the weirdos, and you gotta put aside your personal comfort. Because when you put aside personal gain, man, and you work together and you collaborate, you can attain higher things than you would solo.
In a time where personal opinion is a human right.
If you don't like something, change it. If you can't change it, change your attitude.
See, in my world, we have a golden rule. Treat others like you want to be treated.
The Quest for Tolerance Tower, coming this summer.
We hope you found this hour entertaining, informative, and relevant. Thank you for watching, and stay safe.